Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're starting our first full season in Moonlight Peaks and seeing how the game compares to the demo we played during Next Fest, and of course, sharing my first impressions along the way. I've been looking forward to this game for a long time. It's spooky, it's cute, there's farming, and you can romance death. I mean, what more could you possibly want in a game? But before we can worry about romance, we have a farm to fix, a town full of monsters to meet, and an alcoholic vampire who's apparently decided we're going into the wine business together. We've got crops to grow and death to find. So grab a snack, get comfy, and let's head into our first spring in Moonlight Peaks. We start things off in the character creator, where I randomize a few times just to get a look at some of the different options. And I have to say, I think the character models in this game are really cute. We name our little vampire Pixel, as always, and then it's time to name the farm. I decided to go with Grave Intentions Farm because we're planning on romancing death, and I want him to know exactly what our intentions are just from seeing the farm name. Subtlety is not our strong suit here. We also get to name our little hell kitten, who I name Luna after my own little hell cat. I then take my time going through all the character creation options, trying to make our little vampire as cute and stylish as possible. First up is our skin tone, and we go with pasty. I did debate making her pink for a minute, but I ultimately decided against it. We get some really cute little star freckles before moving on to the eyes, where I immediately gravitate towards these more reptilian-looking pupils. I also decided to give her heliochromia because I just think it looks really cool. But then I started thinking, maybe her gray eye is some kind of ghost eye? Maybe that's how she's able to see death? I don't know, that could be like a fun little storytelling option. With our completely unnecessary character lore established, we move on to eyelashes, makeup, and eyebrows before finally getting to the hair. I originally went with this longer style, and we'll stick with it for a little while, but I do end up changing it later. And of course, we make her hair pink. I really love this white shade too, and was very tempted by it, but pink just feels a little more true to us, so naturally, pink wins. Then it's time to put together an outfit. The individual pieces are kind of basic on their own, but once we start adding some of the accessories, I think the whole thing really starts to come together. It's actually here that I decide to go back and change her hairstyle to an updo because I really like the earrings and I wanted to actually be able to see them. And after one final look through all of our options, I think our little vampire is officially complete and ready to head off to her new farm to find romance. Mostly with death. With our little vampire complete, we find ourselves outside our home on a rather stormy night. And apparently, we're running away. With our coffin and hell kitten in tow, of course, we do have our priorities. We make our way down the mountain and catch a train, where our mom immediately starts blowing up our phone. She's worried about us and wants us to come home, but we quickly make it clear that we're not going to do that. We need to find Death so we can marry him after all. Mom tells us her heart is breaking, our dad is furious, and she begs us one more time just to come home. But times have changed, Mom. She flips the script pretty quickly after that, actually, and asks where we're going, which honestly, I think she already knows. Moonlight Peaks. She tells us she's always had a feeling we'd end up there and asks us to take care of ourselves and let her know when we arrive safely. We promise we will, and then immediately throw our phone out of the train window. So much for that. Before we know it, we've arrived at our rather rustic new farm. It might be a little run down, and the weather isn't exactly giving us the warmest of welcomes, but it's ours. At Luna's suggestion, we head inside and turn in for the day. And before we know it, our little vampire is waking up to her very first day on Grave Intentions Farm. We wake up on our very first day, and can I just say, I absolutely love the rising out of the coffin animation. It's such a nice little touch. Our house, however, looks just as rustic on the inside as it did on the outside, but that's a problem for future Pixel. For now, we head outside to start our day and are immediately greeted by a man sleeping directly in front of our house. Naturally, we poke him with a stick a few times, and when that doesn't work, we pour some water on him, and that does the trick. It turns out our new friend Orlok had a bit of a rough night, but that doesn't stop him from immediately roping us into his plans to grow grapes and make his own wine. He's essentially trying to cut out the middleman to his vice, if you will. And apparently, we're now part of that operation. He gives us some grape seeds to get started and also suggests we head into town to introduce ourselves to the rest of the townsfolk. Something our dad apparently never bothered to do, and since we're currently doing everything in our power to spite our father, I will make sure to greet every single person in town with a smile. But first, we have family to visit. There's a crypt sitting in our land where we find our Uncle Victor, who has been hit with the unfortunate side effect of a curse and is currently stuck as a bat. But look at him! I think he's so cute! I don't know what Uncle Victor looked like before he became a bat, but personally, I think the bat is a good look for him. After saying hello, we get back to clearing a little bit of land beside our house and planting those grape seeds, which earns us our very first Steam achievement of the playthrough. And with our future wine empire officially underway, it's time to head into town and start making some friends. After leaving the farm, we run into Brooke and Ridge Logan, the mayor and town carpenter respectively. Brooke informs us that we're required to register at town hall and asks us to meet him there. So I pull out the map to figure out where I'm going, and this map is huge. I remember Moonlight Peaks being a decent size when I played the demo, but this is so much bigger than I remember, and I'm so excited to explore it all. The map reveals itself as you discover new areas, and it also shows the townsfolk moving around in real time, which is going to be incredibly helpful in our quest to greet absolutely everyone in town. On our way to town hall, we say hello to a few people and start handing out some flowers I picked up back at the farm. We meet Luna, Mina, Evan, Alina, Elvira, and Dragon, the creator of Nocturna, before finally making our way inside town hall. And Brooke has a gift for us, our very own Chester. Chester is our monster shipping bin. We feed him things, and he pays us. Not a bad gig. Then it's time to make our move to Moonlight Peaks official and get ourselves registered. Brooke attempts to take our picture, but there's one tiny problem. We're a vampire. Vampires don't exactly show up in photographs, so instead he draws our portrait by hand. And it's a work of art, if I do say so myself. I think it really captures our essence. With our beautiful portrait complete, our registration is finally finished, and we've completed our very first quest of the playthrough. But we still have townsfolk to meet, so we head back out and continue our little induction tour. We meet Saga, who gets our very last tulip, Samael, and we even run into our drunken buddy Orlok from the lawn again. Then there's Fiona, Sabrina, Aras, Noel, and last but certainly not least, Ludo. And that's everyone. Except someone is missing. Where is my future husband? I met Death almost immediately when I played the demo, so I'm assuming he's locked behind a quest or something now, which is fine. I will be here, impatiently waiting. By this point, it's already 1 o'clock, and we only have until 6 before our day ends, so I decide to explore one more biome before heading back to the farm. I spend the rest of my stamina doing a little foraging and cleaning up some of the debris around our new home, and with our first day on Grave Intentions officially complete, we climb back into our coffin and rest up for day 2. I mean, night 2, because we're vampires. We start off day 2 by saying good morning to Luna, who immediately scares me into thinking our dad is going to show up and drag us back home. Thanks, Luna. With that brief moment of panic out of the way, I take a look at our crafting table and make a few candles. We actually unlocked a really cute cat bed blueprint yesterday, and I wanted to make it for Luna, but we're missing some of the materials, so that's going to have to wait for another day. When we head outside, we're greeted by Ridge, who immediately starts talking shit about our roof, which, fair. Thankfully, he offers to fix it for us completely free of charge. We just need to gather 50 pieces of wood. Honestly, that doesn't seem like such a bad deal. The only problem is that stamina is a little touch and go right now. We also have our very first piece of mail waiting for us from Witch Luna, letting us know that she has animals on her farm now and is inviting us to come and visit. So I mentally add visit Luna's farm and gather 50 pieces of wood to our growing to-do list before planting a few more seeds, watering our crops, and casually deforesting grave intentions in the name of home improvement. By midnight, I finally have all the wood we need to fix the roof, so I head off to find Ridge. But first, we need to talk about the bridge. Apparently, Orlok offended Fiona, because of course he did, so Fiona cursed his bridge, and now he can't go home until he apologizes. His kids are over him, I'm over him, but someone needs to convince this man to apologize. And I have a feeling that someone is going to be me. After the bridge fiasco, we continue north to find Ridge, only to be intercepted by Noel and his fishing challenge. You don't have to yell, Noel. I hear you just fine, thanks. Don't you know fishing is always my least favorite part of these games? After Noel moonwalks his way off our screen, we can finally hand over the wood to Ridge. He tells us he'll start working on our roof tomorrow, so fingers crossed the weather holds up until then. While we're out in the woods, we meet our man Yabis before finally making our way over to Luna's farm. And this is where she introduces us to the chickens. And I mean, look at them! These might be the cutest, derpiest little animals I have ever seen, and I immediately want to take them all home. Unfortunately, we need a barn first. And I'm sure that's expensive, so my future egg empire is going to have to wait. I pick up a few seeds from Luna's stand before heading back into town, where we meet two of Moonlight Peaks' resident ghosts, Balthazar and Jarvis. Then it's time to find my best friend Orlok and convince him to apologize to Fiona, because the graveyard is on the other side of that bridge. And the graveyard is where I met Death in the demo. Suddenly, this quest has become my top priority. We find Orlok outside the broken lamp, where he very specifically tells us not to follow him. So naturally, we follow him. Inside, he tells us he'll apologize to Fiona if we pay off his outstanding bar tab. 350 coins, and I agree. Because if paying off this man's drinking debt gets me one step closer to being reunited with Death, then apparently that's the kind of financial decision we're making now. We pay off his tab, and we're officially broke. I had planned on buying some food so I could spend the rest of the night fishing, but apparently our entire food budget has gone towards finding my future husband. Priorities. I still managed to catch one fish before completely draining my stamina. So with no money and no food and only one fish to our name, it's time to head back to Grave Intentions and call it a night. We wake up on day 3 to the sound of rain, which would normally be a little concerning considering this current state of our house, but thankfully Ridge is fixing the roof today. When we head outside, we find Orlok checking on our grapes. Our future wine business is apparently progressing nicely because he gives us a recipe for a keg so we can actually turn those grapes into wine when they're ready. Ridge also assures us that the construction is going well. So with our roof and future wine empire both being handled, I get to work planting the seeds we picked up yesterday. While wandering around the farm, I also run into one of these little Vampsters. I have absolutely no idea what I'm supposed to do with them yet, so for now, you could just hang out on the beach, little guy. Seeing the Vampster as a little good luck charm, I decide to do some time fishing and manage to catch 2 more fish, including one of the missing fish, which earns us our second Steam achievement of the playthrough. But before we can go rub our victory in Noel's face, there's still a few things I want to get done around the farm. First, we need that keg. So I cut down a few more trees, gathered the materials we need, and get it crafted and placed. I also put down a few hedges because it's never too early to start making the farm look cute. Eventually we head into town and find Noel at home, but honestly, I could care less about Noel. It's all about Houdini. I mean, look at her. How does she put up with him? Houdini, blink twice if you need help. After checking in on our new favorite owl, we tell Noel to pay up and happily take our winnings from the fishing challenge. With not much else on our to-do list, I decide to head north and explore one of the sections of the map we haven't uncovered yet. The marsh is full of bugs running around everywhere, and I desperately want to catch them. Unfortunately, we don't have a net yet, so for now, I guess we can just chase them around. While exploring, I come around another one of these mushroom circles. We've seen a few of them scattered around the map now, and I have a feeling they're eventually going to become some sort of fast travel point. At least that's my theory. I spend the rest of my stamina foraging before heading back to Grave Intentions. We place our new ghost fish inside the house because apparently that's decor now, and with that, day 3 comes to an end. We start day 4 with Luna making one very reasonable demand. She wants a bed, and honestly, she's right. I wouldn't want to sleep on that floor either. Thankfully, she gives us the blueprint for it, and we actually have everything we need to make it this time. So I get to work crafting and placing Luna's new bed inside the house. And we officially have one very happy hell kitten. As a thank you, she gives us a fish, which I feel like is a very appropriate gift from a cat. When we head outside, we discover our roof is finally fixed. We thank Ridge for his hard work, and he thanks us by immediately giving us his best sales pitch for future home upgrades. I respect the hustle. He also gives us the blueprint for a refiner, which is definitely going to come in handy with some of our future crafting projects. But first, we have crops to take care of. Once everything is watered, I start gathering the materials we need to make our new refiner. After chopping down a few trees and breaking some rocks, we finally have everything we need to get it crafted in place, and we can already use it to make some animal feed. We don't technically have any animals yet, but once we finally save up for that barn and start building our egg empire, we'll be ready. I head into town to buy a little food to boost my stamina, and because apparently we're trying to make friends now, I even hand out some gifts along the way. Then I spend the rest of the night foraging and crafting fences for the farm, because yes, we are still broke, but Grave Intentions is going to look cute. We start day 5 with Mina waiting outside our door. Apparently, Orlok is finally ready to apologize to Fiona, and she asks us to meet everyone over at Fiona's house. She also pays us back for the bar tab we covered, so we're no longer broke. But more importantly, is today the day Death and I are finally reunited? I quickly take care of our crops and do a little decorating around the farm, because a pretty farm is a happy farm. Then it's time to head to Fiona's. Orlok begrudgingly apologizes, and while Fiona definitely gives him a hard time about it, we quickly discover one more tiny problem. Fiona doesn't actually know how to break the curse on her own. Of course she doesn't. So we're sent around town to find the other witches and ask them for help. Once everyone knows what's going on, we all meet back at the bridge. Together, the 4 witches are finally able to break the curse. The bridge is open, Orlok and Evan can finally go home, and I can finally head to the graveyard and find love. This is it. After 5 days of searching, after paying off a stranger's bar tab, after personally helping resolve a magical bridge dispute, I enter the graveyard, and the only person waiting for me is Jarvis. Death is nowhere to be found. Sir, I paid off a stranger's bar tab for you. Devastated, I sit on a bench for a moment and contemplate my love life before accepting defeat and exploring the new area we've unlocked. Eventually, we come across this really cool moon tower and discover our very first mining cave. Inside, we find Alina, who finally explains what we're supposed to be doing with all those little Vampsters we've been finding around town. Apparently, we're supposed to bring them back here. Except for her friend Larry, of course. Larry stays at home with her. With that mystery finally solved, we bring our first little Vampster home and spend the rest of the night mining for copper. We may not have found love today, but at least we found the mines. We wake up on day 6 to Uncle Victor flying around outside our house. He tells us all about mills and how useful they're going to be. Unfortunately, it's also expensive, so that's going to have to wait. After selling everything to Chester last night, we finally have enough money to build our first barn, which means we're one step closer to starting our chicken empire. There's just one tiny problem. It's Saturday, so the shop is closed. Our dreams of becoming proud chicken parents are officially postponed until Monday. Checking the mail, we find another gift from Bridge, a blueprint for a furnace. That immediately gets added to my ever-growing to-do list because we're going to need copper bars if we want to upgrade these tools. And trust me, these tools desperately need an upgrade. While cleaning up around the farm, we run into the little Vampster that's been hanging out on our beach. Now that we know where they're supposed to go, we bring him back home to the cave. That makes 2 little Vampsters rescued so far. As we head into town, we run into Ludo, who very excitedly asks if we want to see something fun. Apparently, Brooke and Orlok are fighting. Again. So naturally, I say yes. When we arrive at the Crest Garden, we find Brooke accusing Orlok of stealing the Logan crest. Orlok insists he didn't take it and argues that it's much more likely that Brooke simply misplaced it. Honestly, either option feels equally believable. Somehow, despite this being very much not our problem, we get roped into helping solve the mystery anyway. Saga suggests we ask the seers if they've seen anything, so we make our rounds speaking with each of them. Eventually, everyone gathers at the broken lamp, where Dragon suggests the missing crest may have ended up somewhere out in the marsh. So we all agree to continue the search in the morning, although Ludo is acting just a little bit suspicious. I'm filing that away for later. With our newest mystery waiting until tomorrow, we head back to Grave Intentions and call it a night. We kick off day 7 with a letter from Mom. She sends us a little money to help us get settled into our new life, so thanks, Mom. With her help, we officially have enough money to buy both our barn and our very first chicken. Looks like tomorrow is going to be a very busy day. Back on the farm, our grapes are ready to finally harvest. We pick them, load them into our brand new keg, and save a few as a little snack for Uncle Victor. He seems pretty happy with the gift and rewards us with the blueprint for a bat lantern. I say that's a pretty fair trade. With our farm chores out of the way, it's time to head back to the marsh and continue investigating the mystery of the missing Logan crest. And almost immediately, Ludo admits he's known where the crest has been this entire time. I knew he was acting suspicious. Back at Town Hall, Ludo confesses that Yabis accidentally swallowed the crest, which is already ridiculous enough. Then Saga asks Ludo if he was buying those green flowers again. Ludo, care to share with the rest of the class? It might make our farm chores a little more fun. Our newest objective is simple: find Yabis. When we do, he offers us a trade. 1 copper bar for the Logan crest. Honestly, I've heard worse deals. So we head back to the farm, gather the last few materials we need, craft ourselves a furnace, and immediately get to work smelting our very first copper bar. Conveniently, I had just enough copper ore to make exactly 1. We bring the bar back to Yabis, who very politely reverse snacks the Logan crest. I didn't think I needed to watch that happen, but his rainbow reverse snacking is kind of cool. With the crest safely recovered, we return it to the Crest Garden, and peace is officially restored to Moonlight Peaks. Well, at least until the next town-wide disaster. And with that, our very first week in Moonlight Peaks is officially in the books. Next week, we'll finally build our barn, bring home our very first chicken, and continue our completely normal, definitely not obsessive, search for death. Night 8 starts with another letter from Luna. This time she sends us the blueprint for a bee house. So onto the ever-growing to-do list it goes, along with buying some flowers, because apparently bees need those. Who knew? After taking care of our crops, it's finally time to track down Ridge and buy that barn we've been saving for. On our way into town, we run into Saga, Ludo, Brooke, and Orlok, who are planning a Unity dinner to celebrate the return of the Logan Crest. Naturally, we get volunteered to invite everyone, because apparently we're the town's unofficial event coordinator now. We stop by the Howling Hammer to invite Ridge and Samael before finally purchasing our very first barn. We are now one step closer to our chicken empire. Ridge also has this really cute kitchen sink for sale. And I have absolutely no self-control when it comes to decorating, so naturally we're buying that too. After that, we spend the afternoon running all over town delivering invitations to the rest of the guests. While stopping by the cafe, I noticed the little cupcake Vampster running around, and since we're heading towards their cave anyway, we bring them home first. That makes 3 little Vampsters safely returned. And because we're already out in the mines, I decide to spend the rest of my stamina gathering more copper. Our axe isn't gonna upgrade itself. With all of our errands finally complete, it's time for the fancy dinner. Everything starts off well enough, until Brooke and Orlok have one drink too many, which somehow escalates into a magical fight, as one does. Unfortunately, we get caught up right in the middle of it and get turned into a hell kitten. Honestly, this is less of a punishment and more of an upgrade. The transformation also unlocks our Hell Kitten form permanently, meaning we can switch between forms whenever we want. And more importantly, we can absolutely zoom around the map now. With our brand new feline powers acquired, we race back home, get our copper smelting overnight, and call it a day. I'd say starting our second week by accidentally becoming a cat is about as Moonlight Peaks as it gets. We kick off night 9 with a letter from Brooke apologizing for accidentally turning us into a hell kitten. Honestly, no hard feelings. I kind of like it. Back on the farm, our very first batch of wine is finally ready, which means we can at long last complete the very first quest Orlok gave us when we arrived in Moonlight Peaks. Our copper bars are also finished smelting, but with Ridge busy building our barn today, our axe upgrade is going to have to wait just a little bit longer. So I spend the morning doing what I've become very good at, clearing the farm. While chopping trees and cleaning up debris, I stumble across another little Vampster and bring them back to the cave. That makes 4 rescued so far. Only this time, something interesting happens. When I try to drop the little guy off, I get a message saying I don't fit. So I transform into my Hell Kitten form, and suddenly I do. Apparently, being tiny has its advantages. The Vampsters immediately ask if I bite. I choose not to answer that question and quietly leave. But I do make a mental note to check on them every once in a while. With our little rescue mission complete, it's finally time to deliver Orlok's wine. He seems pretty pleased with the results and rewards us with a blueprint for a wine rack, which feels appropriately on brand for him. I happily sell the rest of our wine for a little extra spending money, and then I remember something. Now that we can transform into a hell kitten, I remembered seeing a suspicious little hole back in the marsh. Surely, this is why we have cat powers. So I rush over to investigate, and unfortunately, I can't fit. It's a decoy cave hole. But the trip isn't a total loss because I do find another little Vampster hiding nearby. So naturally we bring them home, and that brings our grand total up to 5 rescue Vampsters. Not bad at all. We finish out the day back at the farm where I decide to talk to Luna while transformed into a hell kitten, and apparently that's adorable enough to unlock an achievement. I'd say that's a pretty successful end to the day. Night 10 starts off with a letter from Luna asking us to stop by her farm, which is perfect timing actually, because I was already planning on visiting today to buy our very first chicken. It is also time for our first birthday in Moonlight Peaks, so happy birthday, Alina! The rain is doing us a huge favor this evening by taking care of all the watering for us, which means I can spend my time harvesting instead. Our strawberries are finally ready, and I already know exactly where they're going. Straight to the keg. When we arrive at Luna's farm, we find her tending to some magical plants. Apparently, she needs our help, but before we can do that, we need to get our broken wand repaired. That'll just have to wait a moment though, because as I mentioned before, we're here for something much more important. Our first chicken! Everyone, please welcome Agatha. I love her already. Buying our very first farm animal also unlocks another Steam achievement, which makes today a pretty good day already. On the way to Web of Wonders, we make one quick stop at the Howling Hammer to finally upgrade our axe. These poor trees have suffered enough. At Web of Wonders, Noel takes one look at our broken wand and repairs it with duct tape. I'm not exactly sure how much faith I should have in magical duct tape, but apparently that's good enough. Before heading back to Luna's farm, we stop by Alina's house to wish her a happy birthday and give her a little birthday gift. Then it's back home for a quick visit with Agatha before returning to Luna and finally learning our very first spell. I actually really like the spellcasting mechanic. I'm not entirely convinced I'll personally remember the movements once we unlock a whole bunch of spells, but for now, I've got this one. Learning our first spell also earns us our second Steam achievement of the day, so not bad at all. With all of today's excitement behind us, I spend the rest of the evening clearing out the area around Uncle Victor's crypt. I have plans to plant some flowers over here because every crypt deserves a nice little garden. Night 11 starts with another successful grape harvest. Our little wine empire is officially thriving. We harvest the grapes, get another batch fermenting in the keg, say good morning to Agatha, sell a few things to Chester, and stop by Uncle Victor's crypt to drop off his daily snack. Then it's off to Luna's farm to water the magical plants. On the way, however, we meet the love demon, who promptly makes us fall in love with a tree. Not exactly the romance I had in mind, but at least we get a Steam achievement out of it. Once we've recovered from our brief relationship with the forestry, we finally make our way to Luna's farm and water the magical plants. After that, I try to make it over to the Howling Hammer before they close so I could finally upgrade my pickaxe. Unfortunately, I'm too late. I'm blaming the tree. So our pickaxe upgrade will just have to wait until tomorrow. Slightly defeated, I stop by the cafe for what I'm calling an emotional support coffee. There we run into Mina and Evan talking about how completely exhausted they are with Orlok's behavior. Growing up around alcoholics myself, I get it. Thankfully, Mina buys us a coffee, which is exactly what we needed. Now that we're properly caffeinated, it's finally time to head for the mines, which means we have to walk through the graveyard. I've been casually checking this graveyard every single night, hoping that someone would finally show up. And today, we are rewarded. There he is, my future husband, Death himself. And look at him, the Hawaiian shirt, the flower lei. This man is on vacation. Meanwhile, I've named my farm Grave Intentions and spent the last week trying to find him. I tell him I'm not afraid of him, and he tells us he's been watching us. Then he explains that he's simply here to relax and says he'll be around if we need him. Perfect. So naturally, the first thing I do is open my map to figure out where he lives. And he's nowhere to be found. Sir, respectfully, this relationship is going to require just a little more communication. After finally meeting the man I've spent 11 in-game days searching for, I head for the mines. Along the way, we rescue 2 more little Vampsters, bringing our grand total up to 7. Not a bad way to end the day. Night 12 starts with a very important milestone. Agatha has laid her first egg. I am so proud. Back on the farm, I craft a second keg to keep expanding our little wine empire, and I finally put together that bee house blueprint Luna gave us. After taking care of the crops, it's time to head back to Luna's farm. The magical plant we've been helping her grow is finally ready. The plant, Noel proudly informs us, is called moonfruit. As a reward, Luna gives us some moonfruit seeds so we could start growing them back on our own farm. Naturally, I immediately want to sprint home and get them planted, but before we do that, there's one more stop to make. It's finally time to upgrade our pickaxe. On the way into town, however, I run into someone I wasn't expecting. Death. Again. Apparently, our future husband is having trouble relaxing and introduces us to his plight, Soul Blobs. Since he's, busy on vacation, he asks us to help round them up and hands us a soul net. I was hoping for a date, but honestly, I'll take it. I will win your heart, one soul blob at a time. And as a bonus, this net also lets us catch all those little bugs that have been running around the farm. Finally. After saying goodbye to Death, we head over to the Howling Hammer and at long last upgrade our pickaxe. Then, feeling a little bold, I decide to give Death a gift. He is entirely unimpressed. My heart breaks just a little, but that's okay, we'll recover. We catch our very first soul blob and spend the rest of the evening chasing down a few more. I am absolutely determined to prove myself. And if catching soul blobs is what it takes to win Death's affection, then so be it. Along the way, we also rescue another little Vampster before catching one final soul blob for the night, bringing our total to 8. Not a bad day's work. Now, if only my future husband liked flowers. Night 13 starts with a few very different pieces of mail. First is from Luna, who lets us know she's now selling a wider variety of magical plants. Excellent news. And another is a love letter from the tree. Someone is messing with me, and I will figure out who. Before anything else, we track down today's soul blob, one step closer to winning Death's affections. Back at the farm, our latest batch of wine and strawberry juice is finally ready, and while we're out and about, I catch my very first bug. A beautiful little butterfly, and I have absolutely no intention of selling it. Congratulations, you're my pet now. Our strawberries and blueberries are both ready to harvest, so we get another batch of blueberries fermenting in the keg and collect our very first jar of honey from the bee house. Not bad at all. While running into town for more seeds, we stumble across 2 more soul blobs. One on the road and another waiting right by the market stand. Before heading back home, I decide to stop by the broken lamp. Inside, Ridge is attempting the impossible. He's trying to get Brooke to relax. They invite us to join them for a drink, but before anyone can get too comfortable, Saga bursts in to give her dad a hard time about something. Honestly, like father, like daughter. After that, it's time for another very important mission. Finding Death. Today's gift is some fresh fruit from our own farm. Surely, this will work. It does not. Another swing, another miss. I will figure you out eventually. Just you wait. On the way home, I noticed that the hat snake has arrived for the weekend, and I really wanted to buy Agatha a tiny little hat. Unfortunately, I'm broke. Again. So with my dreams of fashionable poultry temporarily crushed, we head back to Grave Intentions and call it a night. Night 14 begins in a dream. We find ourselves meeting the moon goddess, who asks us to gather a few flowers for her. It's all very mysterious. But honestly, strange has become pretty standard around here. Then after waking up, we're greeted by an even bigger surprise. Death is standing outside our door. Apparently, we've caught enough soul blobs to impress him because he stopped by to congratulate us. As a reward, he gives us a magical clock that lets us change the length of our days. which is actually a really cool accessibility feature. For now though, I'm happy with the default settings. I don't really feel rushed yet, so we'll leave it as is. With our unexpected house guest gone, we get back to work. The crops need tending, the kegs need filling, and Agatha has officially started contributing to breakfast. After frying up a few eggs and catching Soul Blob number 12, we head into town where we discover the request board has finally been unlocked. Albertus is adorable, and I immediately accept my first request, which conveniently involves visiting Ridge. Apparently, he's giving away furniture. I mean, don't mind if I do. As I'm pulling up my map to find him, I notice something interesting. The moon goddess is wandering around nearby. So naturally, we make a little detour to say hello. And it turns out, it's her birthday. Happy birthday! After picking up our new table from Ridge, it's finally time for today's most important mission. Finding Death. Now, I actually started this playthrough on release day. And when I tweeted that I was trying to make Death fall in love with me, the official Moonlight Peaks account replied with one very important piece of information. Apparently, Death loves garbage. Which, when you really think about it, kind of makes sense. Everything in the trash has reached the end of its life cycle. Honestly, it's pretty clever. So today, we're putting that theory to the test. And the devs did not lead me astray. He loved it. After all the flowers and the fruit, the answer was trash. Don't worry, sir. I will happily help you build your trash empire. With our romance finally making some actual progress, we head over to the Hat Snake. Today, I finally have enough money to buy Agatha her very first hat. Naturally, she gets the strawberry one, and it brings me an unreasonable amount of joy. Night 15 starts with another letter from Luna. This time, she's letting us know about herb gardens. Excellent. One more thing to add to our ever-expanding farm and to-do list. Back outside, another batch of grapes is ready to harvest, so we get those picked, refill our kegs, and spend a little time cleaning up around the farm. It's amazing how quickly this place is starting to come together. When we stop by Luna's farm, she gives us our very first herb garden along with a new quest to get us started. And while we're there, I make a very important purchase. Agatha is officially getting a friend. Everyone, please welcome Henferatu. You know, like Nosferatu, the vampire. I'll see myself out. Since tonight is a full moon, I decide to head over to the marsh to visit our werewolf friends. Naturally, I show up in my Hell Kitten form, which earns us another Steam achievement. While we're there, we also finally solve one lingering mystery. It turns out Ludo was the one sending us those love letters from the tree. Honestly, I should have known. Before heading home, I stop by to see Death. By this point, we've established a routine. I bring him his daily garbage. He loves it. This relationship is finally going somewhere. And to top it all off, we officially earn our very first friendship. Mina is our first friend in Moonlight Peaks. I say that's a pretty successful full moon. Night 16 begins with another stack of mail. Sabrina asks us to stop by Web of Wonders, and Mina lets us know that there's a brand new cookbook for sale. Looks like we've got a busy day, or night, ahead of us. First though, we're heading to Luna's farm to pick up some flowers. My bee houses have been looking a little lonely, and I think it's time to give them some company. On the way, we run into the moon goddess once again. She tells us she's been watching over us. She tells us about her brother, the sun god, and reveals that she was the one who created all the creatures of the night. No pressure or anything. After our little divine encounter, we spent some time tracking down Soul Blobs. 13, 14, 15, and 16. I am becoming surprisingly good at this. While wandering around town, we run into Mina, and since we've officially become friends, we can hug her! And it is ridiculously adorable. Eventually, we run into Luna, where she introduces us to her flower arranging stand. I make my very first bouquet and unlock another Steam achievement. Apparently, I've become quite the overachiever. With flowers arranged, we pick up a few requests around town. First, we deliver some fiber to a Ross before finally making our way to Web of Wonders. Sabrina is working on a brand new invention and naturally needs our help gathering supplies. Meanwhile, Noel is standing right there, perfectly capable of helping, and somehow this has still become my problem. Looks like we'll be spending some time in the mines collecting copper and iron bars. Before heading home, I pull up the map to track down Death and deliver his daily garbage. As one does. But I notice a new little sparkle icon I haven't seen before. Or at least haven't noticed before. Death is currently hanging out somewhere I can't reach yet anyway, so curiosity wins. When I arrive, I trigger my very first heart event with Evan. We find them practicing the violin, and while they really want to improve, they're struggling to live up to the instrument's history. It was a gift from their father, and judging by everything we've learned so far, their relationship is complicated, to say the least. Well, I believe in you, Evan. On our way back to Grave Intentions, we catch 2 more Soul Blobs and another beautiful butterfly before finally calling it a night. Night 17 is a little quieter than the last few, which honestly isn't a bad thing. The farm still needs taking care of, so we get our daily chores out of the way before heading off to the mines. Sabrina's invention isn't going to build itself, and we still need plenty of copper and iron bars. While we're down there, we rescue another little Vampster that brings our grand total up to 9. Not bad. Before heading into town, I make my now daily stop to visit Death. Garbage delivery. Right on schedule. I'm really hoping this relationship is going somewhere. On the way to the Broken Lamp for a little nightcap? Daycap? Whatever vampires call it. We run into Samael talking with a mysterious girl wearing a paper bag over her head. She looks frightened, like she wants help. But before we can really speak to her, she runs away. Samael tells us she spends most of her time wandering around the deep forest, so hopefully we'll see her again soon. When we finally make it inside the Broken Lamp, we walk in on Noel shamelessly flirting with Alina. She shuts him down immediately. Then, without missing a beat, she invites us to join her for a drink instead. Suck it, Noel. I'd say that's a pretty satisfying way to end the night. Night 18 starts with a letter from Lemmy the Love Demon. Apparently, the Lovage Fest is just around the corner. It'll be our very first festival here in Moonlight Peaks. To participate, we need to bring a gift for the secret admirer exchange and cook something for everyone. No pressure. Back on the farm, our moon fruit is finally ready to harvest. Straight into the keg it goes. Our little beverage empire is becoming surprisingly diverse. After taking care of the usual farm chores, I decide it's finally time to see what it'll take to upgrade our pickaxe again. Those giant rocks down in the mines have been mocking me for long enough. When we stop by the Howling Hammer, Ridge asks us for a favor. Apparently, Ludo has fallen asleep. Again. Thankfully, threatening to eat his pancakes is enough to wake him up, although now we actually have to make the pancakes. Honestly, that's fair. While we're here, I check the requirements for the next pickaxe upgrade, 4,000 coins, and 3 iron bars. Looks like we've got a little more mining ahead of us. I also accidentally buy the bathroom and lamp blueprints. Listen, I just want a cute house. Speaking of the house, I decide to ask Ridge what it'll cost to upgrade it. 8,000 coins, 100 wood, 25 stone. Looks like expanding Grave Intentions is going to be a long-term project. Before anything else, I stop by to deliver today's garbage to Death. A girl's got priorities. After that, I spend the afternoon down in the mines, gathering ore for all of our upcoming upgrades and quests. On the way to the Broken Lamp, I make a quick detour behind Luna's flower stand. Now that our axe is stronger, we could finally clear out some of those giant stumps that have been blocking the way. Inside the tavern, we find a very drunk Orlok and a very stressed out Mina trying to get him home. She admits that she's exhausted from always feeling like she has to put on a happy face. Honestly, I think a lot of us know what that feels like. I'm really glad she feels comfortable enough to open up to us. After all the chaos, we decide to call it a night. Oh, and one more thing. Today's garbage officially earned us our very first heart with death. We're making progress. Night 19 begins with one of my favorite sounds, rain, which means no watering crops today. I happily say good morning to Agatha and Henferatu before crafting the mortar Luna needs for her magical plant quest. Since tomorrow is the Lovage Festival, I also make sure to cook something ahead of time. One less thing to worry about tomorrow. Originally, I planned on spending most of today down in the mines, but first, I really wanted to upgrade my scythe. On our way into town, we unexpectedly run into Death standing outside the cafe. Or sitting outside the cafe, rather. He invites us to sit down for a drink. His treat. Which, if you ask me, feels suspiciously like a first date. Mina takes our order and jokingly warns us to be careful because Death apparently has a date with everyone. To my surprise, he actually laughs. He even says he likes Mina's lighthearted personality. And honestly, I'm just happy my best friend and my future husband seem to be getting along. After our little date, we finally upgrade our scythe before delivering some grapes to Sam to finish one of our job requests. Then we wander over to the broken lamp and discover it's trivia night. Obviously, we're participating. I take a seat next to my other bestie, Evan, while everyone gets ready to play. Most of us are trying to answer questions. Meanwhile, Orlok is being an absolute menace in the background. Some things never change. Thankfully, despite the distractions, we win. And on the way to the mines, we rescue Vampster number 10 before making our daily stop to visit Death. Today's garbage delivery goes exactly as planned. Then it's back into the mines. We catch Soul Blobs 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23. Apparently, I was on a roll tonight. By the end of the evening, our trivia domination has officially earned us a new friend, Elvira. And Mina reaches 3 friendship hearts. Take that, Dad. I'm making friends. The Lovage Festival has finally arrived, our very first festival here in Moonlight Peaks. Before heading into town, I make sure we've got everything we need. The resources Sabrina asked for, a homemade dish for the community feast, and of course, today's garbage for Death. Some traditions are important. I spend the first part of the evening cleaning up around the farm before finally making my way to the festival. Once we're there, we hand in our gift for the secret admirer exchange, contribute our dish to the feast, and naturally spend a little money on some adorable festival decorations. No regrets. Before the night is over, I also stop by to deliver Sabrina the materials she needed for her latest invention. And naturally, Death receives his daily garbage. I think we're officially past the point of pretending this is weird. On the way home, we rescue 3 more little Vampsters, bringing our grand total up to 13. Not a bad first night at the festival. The next evening starts with a letter from Mom. This time, she sends us the recipe for mushroom soup. Thanks, Mom. After taking care of the crops, I spend a little time decorating the farm with all the cute things we picked up at the festival the night before. It's really starting to feel like home. Once again, I spend the rest of my stamina cleaning up around the farm before heading back to the festival for its final night. The secret admirer gifts are finally exchanged, and somehow Death ended up with my garbage. Mission accomplished. Meanwhile, I receive a lovely little vase. Judging by the hearts that popped up over Ridge's head, I have a sneaking suspicion it came from him. That's actually really sweet. With the festival wrapping up, I head over to Web of Wonders where Sabrina proudly shows us that the mana infuser is finally working. Another mystery solved. On the way home, we rescue Vampsters 14 and 15. Then we run into the mysterious girl with the paper bag over her head again. This time, she finally talks to us. She quietly admits that nobody wants to be around her because she believes she's hideous. I just want to help her, but before we can say much more, she runs away again. We rescue our final little Vampster on the way home, bringing our total to 16. And just like that, Another week comes to a close, which means we've officially reached the final week of spring. Night 22 begins with the sound of rain. No complaints here. It means the crops can take care of themselves for the day, leaving us a little more time to focus on everything else. Today also happens to be Mom's birthday. Unfortunately, since we dramatically threw our phone out of the moving train on our very first night here, we don't exactly have a way to wish her a happy birthday. Maybe that wasn't my smartest decision. As we head into town, we run into Elvira. She tells us she's been secretly filling little bat nooks around Moonlight Peaks with gifts for people to find. She doesn't want anyone to know they're from her. She just wants people to feel like they belong here. And that's really sweet. She mentions leaving one somewhere near Uncle Victor's crypt, so naturally I head over to see if I can find it. Unfortunately, I never do manage to track it down. Instead, I do find another little Vampster hiding around the crypt. While exploring, we also catch 2 more Soul Blobs. Not a bad trade. Back on the farm, I spend a little time cleaning up the last of the debris and realize something exciting. We officially have enough money, wood, and stone to upgrade our house. There's just one tiny problem. The shop is closed. Again. Looks like our home renovation will have to wait just a little longer. Before calling it a night, I stop by Luna's stand to pick up a few more seeds, make my now routine visit to Death with today's garbage, and head back to Grave Intentions for some well-earned sleep. We wake up to another stack of mail. We've got a blueprint for a jam maker, and Mina lets us know there's another cookbook waiting for us at the cafe. Back on the farm, the herbs for Luna's quest have finally finished drying, so we grind them into powder before taking care of the crops. Today's plan is pretty simple. I want to head into town and upgrade my pickaxe. I was originally saving up for a house upgrade, but I've decided I'd rather get a better pickaxe first so we could finish Sabrina's quest before the season ends. With a plan in mind, we set off for town, and almost immediately get distracted. On the way to the Howling Hammer, we run into Dragon, trying to convince Alina to play Nocturna. Alina seems a little over it, but I, on the other hand, am absolutely down. I actually love little touches like this. Getting to play a game inside another game makes the world feel so much more alive. We win our first match, naturally, and unlock the ability to challenge the rest of the townsfolk whenever we feel like it. Eventually, we do make it to the Howling Hammer, not before catching another Soul Blob along the way, of course. We upgrade our pickaxe, pick up a couple of new blueprints, and continue spending money on decorating the farm. I have priorities. On the way back through town, we rescue another little Vampster before stopping by the cafe for a quick dose of emotional support caffeine. We then deliver Luna's herbal powder and turn our attention back to Sabrina's quest. The mana extractor still needs rose quartz, so we make our way to the crystal caves. While we're there, we catch 2 more Soul Blobs, rescue Vampster number 19, and head home to start refining everything we'll need to build Sabrina's machine. One step closer to getting this contraption up and running. Tonight starts with the final preparations for Sabrina's mana extractor. The last of our materials finish refining, so while we wait, I take care of the crops and spend a little time decorating the farm. I know I say it a lot, but watching Grave Intentions slowly come together has been one of my favorite parts of this playthrough. Once everything is finally ready, we craft the mana extractor, place it down on the farm, and head off to show Fiona our handiwork. Of course, Moonlight Peaks has one more detour planned for us. On the way, we run into our mysterious little friend again. She quietly tells us she's cold, and my heart immediately breaks. All I want to do is help this poor kid. She tells us she doesn't like being alone, but at least the bugs in the forest keep her company. We give her a hug, and she finally tells us the name she'd like us to call her by. Skullgirl. She also admits that people throw stones at her. I just want to talk. Point me in their direction. I promise I just want to talk. Eventually, Skullgirl slips away again, leaving us to continue on to Fiona's. When we show her the mana extractor, she's genuinely impressed. In fact, she tells us that if we keep this up, she might even consider inviting us into the coven. I called that pretty high praise. With one quest complete, we make one more stop at Luna's farm, because it's finally time to expand the flock. Everyone, please welcome Poultrygeist. I am far too proud of these chicken names. Before heading home, we make our now routine stop to deliver today's garbage to Death, wish Elvira a happy birthday, complete with gift and hug, and rescue another Vampster. Not a bad way to wrap up the night in Moonlight Peaks. We start the night with another letter from Sabrina. Apparently, she's selling sunscreen, which immediately raises an important question. Where do I buy SPF 9001 in real life? Asking for a friend. It's me. I'm the friend. On the farm, our very first raspberries are finally ready to harvest. Those are definitely going straight into a keg. After taking care of the usual morning chores, we head over to Web of Wonder to stock up on some sunscreen before making another quick stop to rescue a wandering Vampster. While we're out and about, we catch our very first Scully along with another Soul Blob. And naturally, today's garbage makes its way into Death's hands. Business as usual. A few more Soul Blobs later, and I make my way over to the Howling Hammer, fully intending to upgrade the house, only they're closed. Undeterred, I head inside anyway. My plan, sweet talk Ridge into making an after-hours sale. Unfortunately for me, he has other ideas. Instead, I somehow get roped into helping him finish one of his handcrafted chairs. Fine. We'll hype the chair today, but tomorrow you're upgrading my house, buddy. Deal? On the way home, I spend a little time clearing out some of the overgrown debris around town. I don't know if it actually changes anything, but it makes me happy. As we're passing Fiona's, we stumble across Sabrina and Fiona in the middle of yet another disagreement. This time it's over potion ingredients. Naturally, we end up helping Sabrina finish the potion, catch 2 more Soul Blobs on the way home, and call it another successful night in Moonlight Peaks. Tonight starts with some mail from Fiona, and to my surprise, she sent us a brand new wand. I think we're growing on her. Back on the farm, we spend a little time cleaning up before rescuing another wandering Vampster, which officially means our farm is Vampster free. For now, maybe. After picking up a request to track down Orlok's missing violin, I head straight for the Howling Hammer. Today is finally the day. We're upgrading the house. Ridge even tells us we're his favorite customer. I mean, is it wrong to flirt for a discount? Unfortunately, when I get back to the farm to place the upgrade, there's debris exactly where I want the house to go, and unlike Animal Crossing, the game isn't going to magically move everything out of the way for me. So I sprint around clearing the space, race all the way back to the Howling Hammer, and arrive 1 minute too late. Tomorrow is the weekend, the shop is closed, which means our house upgrade is officially getting pushed into summer. I swear, this shop is closed more often than it's open. Ridge, are you by any chance related to someone named Marnie? Trying not to dwell on my crust renovation dreams, I head off in search of Orlok's missing violin. Before I can return it though, Noel decides to stop me just long enough to let me know he's totally gonna beat me at Nocturna. Challenge accepted. We sit down, we play, we absolutely destroy him. Suck it, Noel. With my victory secure, I finally return Orlok's violin before making one last stop to see Death. Today's garbage officially earns us our second friendship heart. We even unlock an achievement for becoming friends. But more importantly, we can hug him now. Mission accomplished. Well, mission partially accomplished. There's still plenty more romance to go. On the way home, we rescue another Vampster and call it a night. Tonight starts like most nights do. We take care of the farm before heading into town to see what kind of trouble Moonlight Peaks has planned for us today. Down at the docks, we find Ridge and Ludo getting ready to welcome a brand new resident. Apparently, someone has purchased the old house and wants to fix it up. Ridge has somehow decided trusting Ludo with the painting is a good idea, but I have concerns. The new arrival introduces herself as Persephone, which immediately raises one very important question. Where's Hades? We quickly learn that she'll be joined by her niece and nephew soon, so it looks like Moonlight Peaks is about to get a few new faces. Ludo naturally wastes no time volunteering me to help by bringing him something to eat. Honestly, making lunch sounds a lot safer than letting him hand me a paintbrush. So before heading back home to cook, I stop by the cafe, fully intending to catch Mina up on all the neighborly gossip. Instead, I find Death standing in the kitchen, cooking. Apparently, he got a little distracted watching the flames and completely burned the pie. Pyro. I make the questionable decision to try a bite anyway, and I immediately regret it. Thankfully, Death suggests that maybe next time we cook together instead. Excuse me, I believe that's called a date. Before heading home, I stop by the Hat Snake to pick up hats for Henferatu and Poultrygeist, because obviously everyone deserves a stylish hat. Once the eggs are ready, I head back towards the docks. On the way, Evan asks if we can talk. They open up to us about being non-binary and how difficult things have been with their dad. Considering everything we've seen from Orlok so far, I wish I could say I was surprised. I'm just really glad Evan feels comfortable enough to trust us with something so personal. After our conversation, I finally deliver Ludo's lunch. His painting job, well, it looks exactly like you'd expect. We also meet Winston, who seems to be realizing he had absolutely no idea what he signed up for. Thankfully, Persephone still seems to be in good spirits and invites us to a housewarming party tomorrow night. Ludo immediately tries to convince me to let him take credit for my gift. Typical. With tomorrow shaping up to be another busy night, I spend the rest of the evening cleaning up and decorating the farm before heading off to bed. Just like every other night this spring, we start the day by taking care of the farm. Some routines never change. On our way to town, we catch one more Soul Blob before making our way to Persephone's housewarming party. Along the way, we run into Winston. Poor guy is nervous about, well, pretty much everything. Thankfully, Ludo invites him to join the next game night, and honestly, that was unexpectedly sweet. Maybe there is hope for him after all. At the party, we get to know the Henderson family a little better. Persephone is very into energy work and positive vibes, which is honestly kind of fitting for Moonlight Peaks. Although, looking back, I probably should have brought crystals instead of flowers as a housewarming gift. We also meet her niece Jada, who immediately wins me over by being completely fascinated with everything supernatural. Meanwhile, Winston is quietly having a panic attack in the corner while Persephone enthusiastically talks about hosting yoga classes. You know, this town could probably use a little centering. By the end of the evening, we unlock a Steam achievement for officially welcoming the Henderson family to Moonlight Peaks. With the party winding down, I remember there's one more important stop to make. Today is Dragon's birthday, so we set off to wish him a happy birthday. Stopping, of course, to deliver one final piece of garbage to Death before spring comes to an end. Some traditions are worth keeping. Before heading home, I make one last stop at the cafe. I wanted to end the season hanging out with my bestie, Mina. Instead, I find Dragon waiting inside. He tells us he knew we'd be coming because he saw it in the stars. Well, Not exactly. He quietly admits that his powers have been fading, but whatever magic he still has seems to grow stronger whenever we're around. I have a feeling there's more to that story. Mina serves us one final lavender tea, and with the warm drink in hand, we make our way back to Grave Intentions. And just like that, our very first spring in Moonlight Peaks has come to an end. I think we've done pretty well for ourselves. When we first arrived, Grave Intentions was little more than a rundown farm with a leaky roof and a whole lot of potential. Now, take a look at it. It's still got a long way to go, but it's finally starting to feel like home. Over the course of our first season, we unlocked 13 Steam achievements, made 4 wonderful friends, caught 5 critters, rounded up 34 Soul Blobs, and helped 23 little Vampsters find their way home. Not too bad for one season. But honestly, the numbers aren't what I'll remember most. I'll remember convincing Death to fall for me with literal garbage, meeting Uncle Victor, giving Agatha her very first strawberry hat, welcoming Henferatu and Poultrygeist to the farm, watching Skullgirl slowly start to trust us, beating Noel at Nocturna, and somehow turning this little rundown farm into something that finally feels like ours. Summer is just around the corner, and we still have got a house to upgrade, a coven to impress, a few mysteries to unravel, and a certain Hawaiian-shirt-wearing Grim Reaper to continue romancing. If you enjoyed joining me for our first spring in Moonlight Peaks, I'd love to have you back for summer. Thank you so much for spending your time with me, and until next time, stay curious, stay gaming, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye!